Okay, we'll go ahead and call this council work session to order. It's Wednesday, April 17th. The time is 2 p.m. I just want to let people know that we had advertised that there will be no public comment today because we are on time restraints. I apologize for the people I see who are here for, no, not even one. You can show up at 7 o'clock tonight and give public comment then. So we're going to go ahead on with our first item on the agenda, which is a service recognition for Darren Cox, who has been our IT guy for the last 5 years. I think you were with us when we had our crash happen, or it was just after.
4 months after I started.
Just after, yeah.
That was a nice welcome.
Yes. Definitely been through a lot. I remember there was a lot of unplugging of computers when all that was happening, and you've been a huge asset. And once you come on up, and I'll present you with a length of service award, Darren. We gotta stand over here because Crystal's gonna.
Take pictures.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, yeah, appreciate all your hard work. Well, IT is spread out through all our departments, so he actually manages every single part of the city, so we definitely appreciate you, Darren.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's go on to our next one, planning division semi-annual report, Jacob Greitchen, our city planner.
Yes, thank you. So this is our semi-annual report for the spring. Normally it would be September through March, but the last one was delayed a little bit. So this is 4 months instead of 6. So project management, we'll talk about that first, and Jenny will steal the show with some stuff. And I have some handouts from her.
Yeah, so Jacob's just gonna hand out, this is the Riverwalk project site plan. He's handing out a slightly revised one. This one's on our website. And it just shows the footprint of a future stage and the available footprint for the playground. I just wanted council to all have that. On your regular session agenda tonight, we have contact with the ex-community specialist. Our pre-con meeting is hopefully next week, and then we'll hopefully break ground in May. So that's just a small update there. Now that you all have that, I can see there's kind of a dotted area where the future stage footprint would fit. Obviously, there's more area than that as well, but this is just showing a future phase for the project. So that's all online now. Yeah, nothing more to say there, Kathy. We did a quick mock-up of a construction banner that will be up during construction to notify anybody who's walking in that area. There'll be a QR code on that so they can sign up for waterfront newsletter updates, which is our regular method of communicating construction impacts in the downtown. So that was just a quick little, just threw that in there. The Community Pass program, the St. Helens Scappoose Trail project, I have an update here. We finally received our grant contract from ODOT, and so now I'm working on an intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, with Scappoose and Columbia County so that we can all split the match requirement for that project. You can expect all of those documents to be before you in May. So 2 IGAs and the grant contract all just bundled as one package project. I thought that would be the best way to bring it before you. So movement there. Our certified local government grant, this is the historic preservation grant that we run. If you've been down South 3rd Street, you'll see that the house that was selected is well underway for construction. They're supposed to be completed in June or July, and just good timing, we have to close it out by August. So that project is moving. This project closed out in our last 4 months. This is the Veterans Memorial expansion. You can see that photo was taken during much colder temperatures in January. There's snow on the ground, but that's the 7 monuments next to the main wall in McCormick Park. There will be flags installed. The VFW donated the flags, and I guess there was an issue with the hardware that they had, and so we just want to make sure they're tamper-proof Those will be installed behind each of the 7 memorials, but the project is closed out from the state's perspective. Our economic opportunities analysis, there's been an update here as well. We kicked off the project. We've finalized our public engagement plan, which includes the technical advisory committee membership. Thank you, Mayor, for being the council's representative on that. We also have Jennifer Shoemaker, who will be our planning commissioner representative. And then the next slide here, this is our project schedule. There's going to be 2 joint planning commission city council meetings throughout this project. So one of those is coming up in June. There'll be an hour dedicated to the EOA at that meeting. And then there'll also be 3 technical advisory committee meetings throughout the project, culminating in the final joint planning commission city council meeting in December. And Jacob wanted me to point out that there will be 2 hours dedicated to the EOA at that meeting in December. And so that agenda is full for that joint meeting.
Merry Christmas.
Other project management support. So I've been helping managing the special public works loan. That's the project for streets and utilities. I just put the QR code in the presentation for anyone at home who wants updates on that project. The CDBG sewer capacity improvements project that engineering is managing. Tonight there's a contract amendment. It's really just an administrative contract amendment. The way CDBG classifies environmental review and permitting are not the same that we would. And so we're just moving money from one bucket to another to satisfy the state's requirements. So you'll see that amendment on your regular session agenda tonight. We closed this project out, long time coming. We got our final grant reimbursement and closed the project out. We did our walkthrough with ODOT and they were happy with the project. The TGM transportation systems plan update, nothing really going on here other than we're just in the waiting game with ODOT. I anticipate about 2 to 4 months before this project will get kicked off. Urban renewal agency support. So in the last reporting period, I've been working with John and Gloria to develop our, there's a typo here, the fiscal year 24-25 budget, not the fiscal year 25-25 budget. And we also expect the June urban renewal meeting to include an IGA that will help the city recapture expenses made by the city to support the plan's creation. So we can actually recapture costs back from 2017. The city invested money to get the agency up and running. And so we'll be able to recoup those costs with an intergovernmental agreement.
Okay, so planning commissions, we have 2 positions that we filled, so no interviews are planned in the next 6 months. We have some stability there. As far as the planning commission's proactive items, architectural standards has been on their agenda for a long time, and within the reporting period, they added vacant storefronts, and of course, we've had some discussions with the joint meetings with you on that. So no introduction needed there. And just some other miscellaneous things. Continue to work with the assessor to update their data and hopefully get it better over time. Some addressing on River Street, and then it's not listed on here, but we're working on some zoning updates so that their data properly reflects our actual zoning. RARE. We have used RARE people before. In fact, Jenny is a RARE alumni, and we're planning on using it again. In fact, jointly with the county. So DEQ, so this is a RARE DEQ TMDL person. Ridiculous amount of acronyms there. But DEQ has some joint program using a RARE person to help jurisdictions with their TMDL stuff. As you know from other reports, we have the privilege of being in a category that DEQ requires all these new things. So this person is said to help us in the county because the county's in the same boat. If it's successful, their start date would be in September. My role would be to help with supervision and onboarding because I've supervised 5 or 6 in the past. And then also help them with the code amendment aspect of it. Engineering is the primary manager on this side. We're just helping them with that. So next slide, please. So population, we've had some additional information on population since that's something we look at over the last 4 months. First of all, St. Helens is finally at 15,000 officially. So we exceeded that. The growth rate from July 22 to 23 was at 3.5%. No, for years, I was looking at the growth rate and it was just paltry. I'm like, this is insane. This doesn't make sense. We've all this building going on. So finally, we're seeing those numbers reflecting the development that we have seen. Now, a lot of people have been freaking out about the growth. We moved away from Portland to get away from this, all those kind of comments. So to help with that, understand that slower growth is anticipated. In fact, this graph shows the dashed line shows the growth forecast that PSU provided back in 2020, and the more current one is the green. So you can see a much slower growth rate. And then another interesting tidbit is Scappoose. Their growth is expected to exceed the regions, and so they'll have additional growing pains with that. So the 2024 code amendments, we've started in that, in fact, started on that in December. And it really covers 5 years of legislation. It's not quite in chronicle order, but we have 2019 through 2023 stuff. And I've talked about the queue before, where we have all this stuff we're dealing with, and then when there's a break in the storm, oh wow, I can work on something. So that's the queue, and this is the queue being reflected over a 5-year period that we're working on now, and hopefully will be done by the fall. The PGE parcel, this is something we worked on quite a bit. I'll probably continue to be working on. I just want to know what the heck we're working on. So let me explain. So in October, we had a draft final decision for creating a parcel, and then the solar thing comes in. Okay, so now we're exploring where do we put this? That's what these maps reflected. The red is what was the proposed footprint of the solar main facility. So it was big. So it's like, okay, where do we fit this thing? And then, for a long time, we've been talking about 300 by 500, and then PGC's, well, we need 500 by 500 now. So I'm glad we didn't come up with a final decision, because we would have been wasting our time. But hopefully we figure out what they need and we can get that worked out.
Because that could change. I mean, the 35 is the 300 by 300. The 100 was 500 by 500. So we don't know exactly what the power needs are going to be for this.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll continue to work on that stuff.
I know Noble and gypsum, the other one would take 15 megawatts. Be bigger than a 35? I don't know.
So that's part of the crystal ball work we have to do. So current planning just means the stuff we have to review as a review or enforcement agency. Jenny has a little bit to talk about on this.
Yeah, so we have a designated landmarks list for historic preservation, and this is a designated landmark that applied to do some exterior alterations. And so our Historic Landmarks Commission / Planning Commission reviewed a proposal in the last reporting period to do some modifications specifically to the windows on this property.
So our food pods, food trucks, etc. We have several in town, and 3 of them renewed or got new temporary use permits. And one of the pictures, you can see a sanitary sewer connection with waste around it. We have various rules, and we found one that was not quite where it should be. So that resulted in quite a bit of work and re-examining our rules and talking to the other entities about them. So next slide. Columbia Commons subdivision. This is the commercial 4-lot subdivision on the north side of town. Burger King is done. Quick Lube is almost done, but they are open. Dairy Queen, it is a miracle. They are engaged and talking to us. It's no longer radio silence. So the Dairy Queen is in.
They're gonna disappear in this.
I know. It's like, what's going on? They're just, it's a fairy tale, but it's not quite fairy tale anymore. And then the larger parcel, still no certainty in what's gonna happen there. I've heard enough rumors, but I don't want to spread rumors in part of the report. So here are some final photos of the fast loop site and the subdivision, which will have more photos later on of more development. So Broadleaf Arbor is done. This started back in 2019 or so. It's been several years of work. Next, have a grand opening ceremony in July, but we were able to get these cool drone photos. And I know it's not everybody's favorite project. It's commercial property that pays no taxes, but at the very least, there was some cool design, and these drone photos kind of show that design. So here's one. I'll go to the next one, another vantage point. The next one, another vantage point. And then, so this one I thought was interesting, because if you look closely, in the lower right, or upper right, excuse me, you can see the St. Helens Place apartments, the ones behind Grocery Outlet. So you have 400 and something apartment units that weren't there several years ago in this photo, to much of everybody's enjoyment or horror, depending on who you are. So subdivisions, these are two subdivisions that we have land use approval in the past, and both of them ask for time extensions. Land use permits have a certain validity period in which they have to be used to be vested. If you don't do anything, they vanish. So both of them have asked for time extensions. Boulder Ridge, they are ready to go. Everything is ready to be shovel ready other than financing. So that's their issue, is financing. And then Comstock, they're looking for a builder that wants that property. So some CPR going on with those, but it's not yet lost. Ridgecrest, we go back to a subdivision that's been around since the 90s. There are 6 lots that haven't been developed, and they're kind of unique in that when the city's wetland rules took effect in December 2003, these ones were kind of in the middle of being created. No other lots have that status in town. And we finally figured out a way consistent with our rules and the planning commission decision back in 2007 for these to be developed. And something I've been dealing with my entire career here. We had a partition and lot line adjustment on South 21st Street. It's a lot with 1 home. It's proposed to be cut up so that you can have 4. It was appealed because of a Douglas fir tree. You can see on the other side of the fence. Close to the fence, there's a lot of roots on the property. That was appealed, but eventually the planning commission did end up maintaining the approval. So that took a little bit of time. Here's another lot that has 1 house on it, a beautiful house. Why would you tear this down? I mean, just look at it. But it was torn down, and it's proposed to be, well, 1 lot's gonna turn into 8 units, 2 duplexes and 4 row houses are proposed on this one. That's just south of the portion of the Friesen site, which is now the transit center, but the transit center didn't take up the entire Friesen site, so it's south of the property, south of the transit center. Okay, so some other stuff, the police station needs no introduction. The lower left-hand corner, that's an exhibit we had in the last presentation for the Village Inn. They're talking about dividing that property into 3, and they're well on their way to do that at this point. One thing that didn't have a permit, but I wanted to discuss it, is the old food bank building. So when the food bank moved, I was really worried about this building. It's kind of weird, kind of small. It's not on sewer, it's on a septic tank. Who's gonna want this? And what is it gonna turn into? And is everybody gonna be pissed off about what it turns into? Thankfully, a local entity, family-run business, McMullen Water Systems, saw the building, it worked for their needs, and they didn't need 1 permit to move in. It all worked out, so that potential stressor wasn't a stressor, it was a positive outcome at the end. And then we also have 3 annexations we're working on now. And you'll be seeing those at a public hearing near you. I have a picture of Bing's in there. So Bing's filed a consent to annex in 2009, if I remember right. So it was a long time ago. The way those work is the consent is filed, and then it sits on the deed. So when we can annex, meaning city limits is adjacent to the property, then we can initiate the annexation process. They connected to sewer back in 2009, and one of these annexations is gonna build a bridge to the Bing's property, so we'll be able to annex that at some later date. So kind of a big deal, especially because when I started, all that stuff was going on, so it's interesting over these years, just to see the progress.
What did you say the Village Inn was doing?
Repeat that?
The Village Inn, what did you say they were doing?
Oh, the Village Inn, they are dividing their property into 3 parcels.
Parcel to 3,
Yeah,
probably gonna be selling it or doing something.
yeah, they do, yes, there's insurance implications. And it's also, for whatever reason, to facilitate the portion, the back there, which is undeveloped along Madison. So that'll be something.
Interesting.
And maybe something in the next 6 months, we'll see. So this is a quick mini lesson in zoning. This is a residential lot on North 14th Street. Now, on a residential lot, storage, the principal use is not something that's allowed. And that's exactly what you have going here in 2013. Another thing we had going on in here was fill placed without a fill permit. So on the right, you can see a stop work order that was placed by Don Salee, and it was our building official back in 2013. So the next 2 photos on the next slide. So 2019, someone else bought it, started using it for storage. Okay, can't do that, made it a big deal, but it's resolved. The storage is gone, the fill has been removed. You can see it there today with the for sale sign. In fact, we recently got a building permit to put a manufactured home on it. So that little saga is done. The Russ Hubbard project, this continues, and one of the challenges on this is what do we do with the street improvements along 12th Street? There's just a whole heck of a lot of utilities in there. That was one of the things we were involved with in the last 4 months was finalizing what we were gonna do there. The Deer Meadow RV Park is done. Another project done. It started in the county, but it was annexed. So we like getting these projects done.
Turned out really nice too.
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah. So the Columbia River Fire and Rescue parcel adjacent to the sanitary sewer lagoon. This sign was installed without permits and it was finally removed. It's nice to talk to a fire chief who has an emotional maturity greater than a child. So this is more than a sign. The sign's the canary in the coal mine. There was a deed that said back in 1989 that if a fire station was not built or written plans to show, or a training center was not built, then it reverted back to the owner. And it's more than just a sign. There was an attempt to get an electrical permit for a temporary building to show, hey, there's a training center here. I don't think so. It's 30 years too late, but luckily it's resolved now. The high school is getting to a point where we need to go out as the planning department and do inspections because they're opening up in phases, and here's one place of the old photo and the new one. And funny, if you look close, you can see the 3 arrows. You can see the old arrow and then the 2 new ones. Just a reflection of the evolution there. So the next 6 months, as usual, we have our our to-do list. And really, it's basically a lot of the stuff we kind of talked about. The economic opportunities analysis, the code amendments, and all kinds of stuff that, if you want to read it sometime, you can. And Jenny, did you want to add anything?
No.
Great, that's it.
All right, good job. So yeah, the phase 1 of the St. Helens High School, the open house is May 24th, 5:30 PM to 7. You better get out there and inspect her soon. All right, good job, Detail. Lots of stuff going on in the city. Thank you. Okay, our next item is review request for proposal RFP document for special events coordinator and management service, including independent contractor agreement. John Walter, city administrator, we'll pick this one on, and I know we have our legal on Zoom.
I can certainly kick it off, and I think Jordan Ramus representatives are here to walk us through both the events contract and the RFP that they've worked on, and glad to see something in front of us to review. So,
Yep. So you guys wanna kick it off? Matthew or Bill? I'm not sure which one of you guys is gonna kick it off for us.
Yeah, I think Matthew's going to kick it off. Matthew and Pete Hicks have been working on this agreement, Mr. Mayor and Council. So Matthew's the detail guy and he's ready to present what's in it so that you've got an orientation to it before it goes on tonight's agenda.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. So following the council's direction last meeting, we had prepared a request for proposal for the special event coordination and management services. So what has been presented in your packet is the proposed RFP. The schedule that's in here, that is on page 3, is a tentative schedule that is based upon an issuance date of Monday, April 22nd. It would provide for a 30-day solicitation period, followed by a period of time where any proposals would be evaluated, a notice of intent to award, if so desired by the city, and provides for the 7-day protest period. All of that leading up to the new contract for these services that would commence on July 1st of this year. So these dates could be changed a little bit. There's a little bit of wiggle room in there. This was in order to provide council with insight as to what the general schedule would look like. And so, if this was going to be issued based upon this, these dates, with the first publication being on Monday, the 22nd, we would start getting information to the paper to make sure we meet that initial ad deadline. The RFP itself, it's broken down into several different sections with the city's authority and kind of the overall scope of the project, some general proposal requirements, information about the solicitation itself, which would include, how an interested proposer could submit questions or request some clarification on the solicitation, how they would deliver proposals to the city, the process for evaluation, what those criteria look like, and then the award and notification part. The final part of this is what is included as attachment D is the contract itself, the independent contract for these services. That is what Peter Hicks in our office had worked on, along with Councilor Sundin, that would set forth the terms and conditions for the actual services themselves. This provides for the initial term of the agreement commencing again on July 1st of this year, terminating on December 31st of next year, 2025. And then having annual renewals up to 3 years through December 31st of 2028. So if there's open to take some questions on this, a lot of the information that's in here are kind of standard solicitation provisions. We included the scope of work, which is under section 2.3, that includes support and coordination, budget development, handling event vendors and registrations, sponsorships, audio visual, and then kind of the day of support. And in the evaluation part, these would be evaluated based upon the proposer's qualifications and their experience, as well as their actual proposal for the coordination and management services. The scores that are listed in here under section 4.10, again, these are just kind of proposed scores. These could be modified if you liked. But this is basically, you know, since this is a qualification-based solicitation, it's not solely on a lowest bid. These allow you to determine who the proposer would be that would best serve the interests of the city based upon their qualifications and their actual proposal. So right now it has the proposal's cover letter as being 5 points, their qualifications experience as 30 points, the proposal itself as 45 points, and then a price proposal is still included, and that would be 20 points. So there would be a total of 100 points. The evaluation process is currently drafted, allows for the proposals to be evaluated, and if the city determines that it is that there's an apparent successful proposer that it likes based upon that, it could go ahead and issue the notice of intent, or it could conduct additional rounds of evaluation. And this allows for them to consider potentially interviews of proposers, and presentations or demonstrations, and kind of depending on how many you want to go through, there would be a scoring at each phase, or the city can decide that it doesn't prefer any of these proposals, and it can cancel the solicitation at any point and not issue the award. So this just gives the city the option to do that. And so those are kind of the main highlights of this
I like the
proposal.
point system. I like the point system, and I like everything you had talked about as far as being able to narrow it down to maybe a few and do another interview process through points again, another scoring system, narrowing down the scope of whatever we had in that.
That's what we did with like the library, hiring librarian and stuff. I
Yep.
think it worked well.
Do we have something different than April 11th?
Oh, yeah, the dates, he said we could change.
No, but I mean, is this the same as the April 11th email that was, is that what you have?
I just pulled it up on the agenda. I'm just
Yeah,
looking,
changed.
yeah.
I'm not sure if there was if that was the draft that we had submitted over to you, but this
Yeah,
looks
April 11th
appears to be the same.
It is the same as the April 11th one. Is what Councilor Hubbard was asking.
Yeah, it appears so. I don't think we had made any changes to that since that point.
What do you think, Counselor Sunday? You work on it?
This part of it is, this was, I believe, just you, correct, Matthew? The RFP,
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. It looks straightforward to me. I like the rating system.
now on the contract, I heard that it would go through. To look that over a little closer, and I guess I'm not seeing it. Is it on the same part of the packet? Contract?
On the bottom.
Was it?
So the contract that's included as an attachment to the RFP, this is on page 71 of your packet. It commences on July 1st and go through December 31st of 2025. And then it allows for annual renewals for up to 3 years through December of 2028.
I apologize. Apparently I'm not on the right part of the agenda, because I'm only going up to page 42. I was flipping through it trying to see it.
So it allows for annual renewals, but it's not requiring annual renewals. And I think just speaking out loud, that's one of the things that's got us in trouble in the past, is not having a process that's saying this is what we're gonna do.
Page 71 of the agenda packet. Where the contract starts.
Right, and so that provision, it goes on to say that there's a notice of intent to renew that would be provided by the city no later than 45 days prior to the end of the year. And then if a renewal is not agreed upon by the end of January 31st, the city may issue an RFP to other contractors or decide to manage the services internally.
So, but it is in that, the bid, the line item 11, though, right? The contract for the RFP.
Tonight?
Yeah,
Yes.
for especially event coordinated management with final contract.
Yeah, you're approving the RFP for us to go out and solicit,
Mhm.
which includes the contract, but the contract will come back to you once somebody is actually picked, selected.
We're talking about the contract extension. Not that,
There
it's the same.
For the
is no extension for.
The-
It's within the document. Or,
He means the current contract.
oh,
Yes.
There's nothing on that right now.
No, there's no extension before you. This is the RFP that would have a contract that starts on July 1st of this year. And then for these services to be provided through the end of December next year, along with 3 additional years at the city's option.
Okay.
So the current agreement expires at the end of June.
Okay, so we're basically putting the RFP out immediately. And then, review opening of proposals, in a month out. Is that correct?
Proposal end date.
And then award on June 6th, 2024. So we're gonna do all this in.
Correct. So those, yeah, the dates there are, some of them are tentative, right? So, if you're closing, if the proposals are due on the 22nd of May, for example, this provides for basically a 2-week evaluation period. Council or the evaluators and council could say that they've looked at the proposals within a week, and so you could issue the notice of intent prior to June 6th. So that's listed as an approximate date. Once you get past that notice of intent, though, there's a 7-day protest period that you can't change. You can't officially enter into the contract until after the expiration of that point. So this serves as a general overview for proposers to understand what the general time frame is for the solicitation itself.
Sure.
Would you say this timeline is fairly standard?
Yes, this allows provides a 30-day solicitation period, which is what is generally required for services. You could decrease it, but there needs to be kind of particular findings explaining how that won't affect any competitive balance from that. But typically these are always done around 30 days for the actual solicitation period. And then the evaluation periods can vary just depending on how long it takes to evaluate the proposals, if there's interviews or not. And then, like I said, the award protest period is going to be 7 days. That's per rule.
Okay, but we could go, extend that by doing another round with, if we narrowed it down, if there was 5 people but we wanted more information on 2. Can we do that? Can we interview on the scoring ballot again, like you were saying?
Correct.
Okay. I'm good with this. It gets all done.
Bill, is there anything that you wanted to add?
I guess the only thing I need to raise, council, is, as you can see from this contract, the term would start on July 1, and you have, of course, events that are being worked on by your current contractor that are scheduled through past July 1. So you might have some issue if it's a different contractor. You're going to have some transition issues to address at some point.
Yeah. Good point. That, you know, a little bit concerning to me, I mean, but I'm okay with the timeline and getting it out there and getting it going.
Mhm.
'Cause it seems like whenever we do it, it's always wrong, and it seems like it's always too late to get this out, well,
Just do
good
it.
job on getting it.
Yeah, there might be problems.
Thank you for, Matthew, for helping out with this deal. Yeah,
Well,
that's
and-
what we paid for it.
Bill, there's been some concern, you probably have heard about the timeliness of this getting done, so can you speak to that a little bit, just so that, it's not looking like something that we sat on, that you guys have been busy, I'm guessing?
Sure, and Matthew can chime in because he's had more contact with Pete. I know this has been in Pete's hands for a while. And he was working on the proposed new contract back several months ago, I think before the beginning of this calendar year. But then when the discussion was about an extension for the existing contract to get through I think the scheduled events probably all the way through Halloween Town, the effort was diverted to working towards that effort. And that's why at your last council meeting, you had a measure, or rather an extension that had an emergency clause to extend that contract through I think October or so. So I think there might have been some communication issues as to whether both tracks needed to be undertaken at the same time, or whether the effort was diverted towards the extension. We thought it was diverted towards the extension. We always had the draft contract in a form that was just waiting for some final negotiation of terms so that it could go out for an RFQ. That's my understanding. Matthew, if you know of any other elements to that, could you chime in?
No, that's my understanding as well. Earlier last month, we had prepared the resolution and the emergency procurement findings to allow for basically a short-term award, so that there wasn't any type of interruption of the tourism services. And when we got the additional direction at the last meeting, we again shifted and prepared this RFP, so you would have something immediately for this meeting tonight.
Thank you for your answer to that.
You're welcome.
So if you're gonna direct staff to move forward this April 22nd, we're gonna have to get the DOJ, Daily Journal of Commerce, the EJC pretty straight away. Get it advertised. Try to keep the schedule. A lot of it will depend on whether or not, how many proposals we get, whether there's additional interviews, that kind of thing, that could cause a little bit of delay, but we can, that's not going to get there.
Yep. All right. Any other questions for our legal team? Why we got them here? We got a few minutes here, then we're gonna,
2 minutes to talk about
Yep.
4th of July real quick.
yep. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
And that would also come down to, 4th of July would be, are we having it or not? And, that was brought up at our last council meeting. And I said, as patriotic as I am, with all the construction going on down here, why is it gonna happen? And I don't see how. It's all getting tore up. I mean, I went to park here and.
Getting worse every day.
It's,
And then you get more.
By your house, Russ, right? That's where a lot of.
It's a good view.
yeah.
Park the bus out there, more room in town.
Yeah.
Work it out there on the north end of town or.
No, I've thought about it and I don't know where you could do it. I mean, there's no room in Columbia City to ask a neighboring city to do it. And that's, I've kind of thought long and hard about it.
Well, we already put a deposit on the fireworks.
John said they could roll that into next year.
Yeah, they're pretty good about that.
I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna have to postpone a bunch of stuff down here. It's a construction site.
Well, I do, with the possible changes in tourism and things like that too, it may also help relieve some of that stress.
I think,
I don't like-
I think we should postpone it, but double down next year.
Yeah.
Double down, make it a nice event. We'll have the park redone. I mean, double down and make it worth. Make a commitment to the community that we double down next year.
Don't put a show on that you're struggling through to
Yeah.
enforce it and.
But I think if we announce that we're gonna double down next year. You two are the guarantees that have to carry that, no matter what, through the election season, you guys are gonna be here. But I think that would be something that. Would be nice to announce and also let Western know that, oversight. When we first. Cause they asked early for that deposit. And,
I think there's two different things to think about. So one is the fireworks, but there's also the community kind of gathering and fun stuff down here that
yeah,
Judy heads a lot of that up, Judy Thompson.
the bell ringing and
And
stuff like
she's
that.
already reached out to me and says that potentially something, that aspect, part of it, that we could still have a community day.
I don't
something
think that'd be,
in a park
I don't
or
think
like
that'd be a
that.
huge issue. I've been to that. It's usually about maybe 500 tops. If I'm wrong, anybody correct me.
Yeah, you're probably right, because I think a lot of the activity is happening from everybody who's kind of camped out over here for the whole day, and if they're over there doing that, they're gonna be at home or other places, so I don't think we're gonna see a lot of.
She generally has a band, sometimes a little car show. She has the
Yeah.
bell ringing and cake, and
Yes.
so I think that is
I
still
mean, the
doable.
plaza is still,
I don't know about the car show and a band.
I don't know here, but
yeah,
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Again, McCormick, somewhere.
yeah.
Judy's concern was, she wanted me to bring up was insurance, so. But she's interested in still putting it on and doing that part of it. So if that's something we're interested in pursuing or helping out with, she's good to.
I think we should be able to help out with that.
I think maybe we should talk to Judy about shifting it to McCormick Park. Cause then she could still do a car show and do whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
Not really be restricted and concerned about safety. I know there's not a bell there, maybe we could get her a big bell or something.
Yeah.
The museum just got one donated from an old school, so.
You bring it
maybe-
over?
Maybe we can use our new bell, but.
Um. So tonight we'll talk about a little bit further about the fireworks. I think that's a good idea too, and supporting Judy and.
Something,
Do you see, I mean, do we have any concerns with that? I don't see really any concerns with using the McCormick Park and. The city, if even the city had to sponsor it for insurance purposes. It's already our park. I don't see it being an issue.
Reservations too, to make sure it's.
Yeah, yeah, could you do that?
she reached out last week wanting to know, she. Put a lot into that too, wanted to know if she should forget about it or keep going.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. We're a little bit late. We're gonna go ahead and take a break. We're gonna head over to media day. We're going to the old school to a media event over there and look at all the
Burning.
goods. Yeah, I'm a journey. Okay, so, all right. Okay, we're not recessing, we're adjourning, and we'll see you all tonight at 7.